Okay, let's take a look at a few web and or internet terms. The web is a collection of web pages that use a specific protocol called HTTP, also HTTPS for secure. And of course, they're web pages, so they're programmed in HTML. And that's really what makes up the web. The internet, often used synonymously with the web, is not. It refers to the vast collection of hardware, physical computing devices, and all the protocols. So you would basically fit the web inside the internet. An ISP is an internet service provider. Everybody has an internet service provider. Even ISPs have their upstream providers. But for us, we don't just get on the internet ourselves. I don't own an actual fiber optic cable that connects to AT&T and their fiber optic cable. I actually use an ISP and it's their fiber optics, right? So internet service provider. IP address, that is the number associated with your computer that identifies you on the network, and then if you're connected to the internet, will allow you to communicate across the internet. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but IP is what we use on the internet to give addresses to devices, computers, switches, routers, all that stuff, in order for them to communicate. It is like having a mailing address or like having a telephone number. And the IP addresses are either going to be version 4 IP addresses or version 6. The main thing being that this one here is an IP version 4, and a 6 is a much longer address, allows for a lot more address space. We actually ran out of IP4 addresses many years ago. Talked about HTTP, Hypertext Transport Protocol, used for web pages. FTP is File Transfer Protocol that's used for any other things that you want to share out. A URL is actually short for Uniform Resource Locator. This is an example of a URL. So basically it's saying if you have a URL, it is following the Uniform Resource Locator, and that will specify what protocol you're using and where you are trying to get your data from, testout.com, that portion. DNS is very important. DNS is domain name system or service. I've seen it listed different ways, but DNS is what provides us the translation between this text-based address and an IP address. Computers like numbers. Numbers are unique. They cannot be duplicated. And so the computer uses a number like this or an IP6 number to figure out where it's going and how to get there. We use this because none of us are running around going, oh yeah, TestOut's IP number is, just like we do with phone numbers these days. I remember back in the day when phones didn't save anything. So I knew my friends' phone numbers by heart. I still do know them by heart. But these days we don't do that. We say, hey, send me a message. Okay, I'll save you. And there you go. And I don't even know what your phone number is, but you're in my address book, right? We work with text and we work with that well. Computers do not. They work with numbers. They're more concise. They're easier for them to use. And so DNS is the one that provides the translation. It is basically a yellow pages, so to speak. Or a white pages. I want James McBride's phone number. I understand the word James McBride. Here's his phone number. Now I can dial it. Right? That's what DNS does for us. TCPIP is a full name of the protocol stack that we use. We talked about IP up there, which handles the numbering. TCP is Transmission Control Protocol. It actually is handling the transmissions between the two. So you've got IP that's the numbering, and then the TCP that's handling actually how it's getting there and when it's getting there and if it got there. All right, so we already looked at Hypertext Transport Protocol here. Hypertext Markup Language, again, that is actually what this page is built up of, is actual text and then the code that tells it how to put it into this table and such, and that's what HTML does for us. There's a whole class on it. You can take it. An intranet, that's kind of a play on words. Basically, we end up with internet, intranet, extranet. We deal with these three things. And what that really means is we are accessing information through a web browser. That's really what it means. So an intranet is a way to access, for instance, I get into your grade system through a web browser here at EAC, and so we call that an intranet. I use the same web browser to access internet public sites. And then an extranet would be like you accessing Gila Hank, where that's inside EAC information accessed through HTML, HTTP, DNS, TCPIP, all that stuff. It's using all that to access that information. And so it's an extranet. VoIP is voice over IP, meaning that you can make telephone calls over the internet without having to use basically AT&T or somebody else. Wi-Fi, you know what that is, accessing things wirelessly. Wireless fidelity, that's what that refers to. Radio, right, is wireless. You're accessing stuff over your phone as a cell network using wireless. And then, of course, attaching to a local area network using wireless. That is what we term Wi-Fi. So we don't actually term you accessing a cell network as Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi would be I'm connecting to a router like at home, and I'm going out through somebody's hotspot or something like that. And then the Internet of Things, IoT, that is connecting sensors and other things straight to the internet so that you have a television, or we do have those, or you have a refrigerator that's connected to the internet. It's a smart appliance, right? Smart as in handing out all your information. No, smart as in I'm connected to the internet and I can report when I'm broken or if you're out of milk, right? So the Internet of Things is big and will continue to become bigger. I'm not sure why we want to attach our toaster to it, but nonetheless.